The 1990s specialized in a particular kind of darkness, producing a kind of thriller that no longer exists. Stories built not around fear, but around erosion of morality, certainty, and control. This is about 8 of them. Those who set out to become mainstream, but failed to do so, yet whose value became apparent over the years.
Aspirin. Price?
$3.40.
Oh, please.
Falling Down put Michael Douglas in a white shirt and tie and sent him across Los Angeles with a bag full of weapons and a head full of grievances. The character, William Foster, is never clearly condemned by the film, which is part of why it made people nervous. Joel Schumacher directed it as a urban pressure cooker, and Douglas played Foster not as insane, but as logical within his own collapsing framework. The weapons he uses are taken from people he encounters, each one a small escalation. The film was shot during the summer in Los Angeles, in real heat, and Douglas reportedly lost weight during production to make Foster look more hollowed out. The movie works because it makes you complicit. You understand his frustration even as you watch him become dangerous. It was a hit, but the conversation around it was uncomfortable. No one was sure if it was a satire or a warning. Either way, it wasn't something people wanted to revisit.
Fuck!
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna be cool. We're gonna play it by ear. We're not gonna kill him unless we have to. We're not gonna be stupid.
One False Move arrived in 1992 with a cast nobody knew and a director nobody had heard of. Carl Franklin. Bill Paxton in a role that required him to be hopeful and decent in a story where hope is structurally impossible. The film follows 3 criminals moving drugs and bodies across state lines, heading toward a small Arkansas town where a local cop believes he can handle them. He can't. What made this film difficult wasn't the violence, though there's plenty. It was the way the violence felt administrative. People die because the story requires it, not because the film enjoys it. Franklin shot much of it in real small-town locations with non-actors filling out the background. The discomfort was embedded in the casting. Paxton's character is likable, which makes his inevitable failure worse. The film suggests that decency is not enough when the system is already broken. It disappeared quietly. No one wanted to argue with it.
You crossed the line. You're in my room. You're in my private thing.
Pacific Heights was sold as a thriller about a tenant from hell. Michael Keaton, fresh off Batman, playing a man who moves into a San Francisco apartment and systematically destroys the lives of his landlords. What the marketing didn't mention was how methodical the destruction would be. Keaton's character, Carter Hayes, knows the law better than they do. He knows how to weaponize bureaucracy. The film was shot in an actual Victorian house in Pacific Heights, and the production team spent weeks making it feel warm and aspirational before Keaton's character begins to hollow it out. Keaton reportedly stayed in character between takes, unnerving the crew. The film functions as a slow-motion home invasion, except the invasion is legal. By the end, the house is contaminated. The movie did fine at the box office, but was quickly forgotten, perhaps because it made ownership feel like a trap rather than a dream.
Tell me about your wife.
How'd you know?
I didn't.
The Last Seduction was supposed to go to theaters. Instead, it premiered on HBO. Linda Fiorentino plays Bridget Gregory, a woman who steals money from her husband and manipulates everyone she meets with surgical precision. She's not a femme fatale in the traditional sense. She's something colder. The script was written by Steve Baranczyk with no redemption arc planned, no moment where Bridget regrets her choices or learns a lesson. Fiorentino reportedly didn't try to make her likable. She played her as someone who enjoys control more than money and cruelty more than control. The film was shot quickly, on a low budget, in rural New York locations that feel economically gutted. Director John Dahl wanted the setting to mirror Bridget's worldview, a place where everyone is either a predator or a resource. The film was critically praised but ineligible for the Oscars because of the HBO release. It exists now as a footnote. Maybe because there's no moral center to hold on to, Bridget wins. That's the ending. Pusher was Nicholas Winding Refn's first film, shot in Copenhagen in 1996, with almost no money and a cast of non-professional actors. It follows a low-level drug dealer named Frank over the course of a week as his life collapses. There's no style here, no neon, no romanticism, just handheld cameras, natural light, and the suffocating reality of a man who owes money to people who don't negotiate. Refn was in his early 20s and used friends and acquaintances to fill out the criminal world, which gives the film a documentary texture. The violence is sudden and purposeless. The film has no arc because Frank has no arc. He's trapped at the beginning and trapped at the end, only deeper in debt and more desperate. It was barely released outside Denmark. Refn would go on to make Drive and Only God Forgives, films with significantly more aesthetic distance. Pusher offers none. It's just a man drowning in real time. Arlington Road is about a man who believes his neighbor is a domestic terrorist. He's right. The film came out in 1999, 2 years before September 11th, and the timing ensured it would be buried. Tim Robbins plays the neighbor with a calm, Boy Scout friendliness that never cracks. Jeff Bridges plays the college professor who becomes obsessed with proving his suspicions. Director Mark Pellington wanted the film to feel paranoid but grounded. So much of it was shot in real suburban neighborhoods in Virginia and Maryland, places that look safe until you're told to look closer. Bridges and Robbins reportedly kept their interactions minimal offset to preserve the distrust. The film's ending is nihilistic in a way that most American thrillers avoid. The protagonist is right. He does everything correctly, and he still loses. Worse, he's made into the villain in the public narrative. The film suggests that truth is not enough when the story has already been written. It made $30 million and vanished. No one wanted to sit with that ending.
Oh, you bitch! Oh, you're gonna die!
Dolores Claiborne was adapted from a Stephen King novel, but it's not a horror film. It's about an abusive marriage, a daughter's trauma, and a murder that may or may not have been justified. Kathy Bates plays Dolores, a woman accused of killing her employer, and the film moves between present-day interrogation and flashbacks of her life under the control of a violent husband. Taylor Hackford directed it as a chamber piece, with most of the film taking place in a decaying house on a Maine island. The production used a real coastal location, and the weather was uncooperative, which added to the atmosphere of entrapment. Bates reportedly found the role exhausting, not because of the physical demands, but because Dolores never allows herself relief. She survives, but survival is not triumph. The film did poorly in theaters. It's possible that audiences expected something more supernatural, or that the story of a woman defending herself was too raw to market. Either way, it disappeared into the stack of mid-90s King adaptations that weren't The Shawshank Redemption.
You think you're better than me, don't you?
Why don't you just blow me?
Red Rock West was made in 1993 and barely released. Nicolas Cage plays a drifter who arrives in a small Wyoming town looking for work and is immediately mistaken for a hitman. He takes the money. Then the actual hitman shows up, played by Dennis Hopper. The film was directed by John Dahl, the same man who made The Last Seduction, and it operates on the same principle of watching someone try to escape a situation that tightens with every decision. Cage's character, Michael, is not a criminal. He's just broke and desperate, and every attempt to do the right thing pulls him deeper into a scenario where right and wrong have already collapsed. The film was shot in Montana and Arizona, small towns that look like they've been economically abandoned, and the production budget was so tight that some scenes were improvised on location. Lara Flynn Boyle plays the wife who hired the hitman, and her performance has a kind of small-town menace that never quite resolves into sympathy. The film went straight to cable in most markets, was later picked up by a few theaters, then disappeared again. It's a noir that refuses to glamorize anything. By the end, survival is the only victory available, and even that feels uncertain. In commercial terms, these movies were miscalculations. All of them were designed to succeed. Almost all of them failed commercially. In cinematic terms, there's something rarer, proof that thrillers can be about consequence instead of catharsis. Thank you for watching.